Welcome to Art Spot Online, the Tampa Museum of Art's art-making activity series for children and families. Together we'll learn about a work of art at the Tampa Museum of Art and get inspired to create a new work of art. Today's Art Spot activity is sponsored by Hillsborough County, the Institute of Museum and Library Services, Tico Energy, and Wells Fargo. Hi, I'm Anthony. I'm Studio Programs Coordinator at the Tampa Museum of Art, and today we're in the Antiquities Collection and we're looking at this black figure neck amphora. We call it, as you all know, a black figure vessel because of all the black designs and figures that are painted on it, and it's called an amphora because of how it's shaped, right? We all know that the different ceramics have these different shapes because they have different uses. So an amphora is used generally to store foodstuffs, so things like wine and olive oil. You might think that it's not great for storing things because there's no lid, but back in the day there would have been a cork on it. And that's why it kind of tapers like this too, because it's easy to stack a bunch of them together, right? So really good for storing stuff. But as usual, I'm mostly interested in the paintings on it. We have these really great, this like parade of sphinxes. And we have all these patterns too, which I'm a big fan of the patterns. We have these lotuses at the bottom. If you remember back to episode 11, we learned how to do this lotus pattern. But then we have this new pattern at the top. It's actually based on a very, very old design pattern known as a palmette. You could call this one actually a double palmette because there's one on the top and one on the bottom. But again, it's a very ancient design. It comes actually from ancient Egypt, and it's decorative. It makes things look fancy, but it also can remind you of fertility and renewed life in spring, or even like a rising sun. All right, so I'll meet you guys down in the Golding Shear classroom and we'll learn how to draw this pattern. All we'll need today is a piece of paper and a pencil and a ruler. And then we have just one of these ceramic pots from any garden center. These are like $1. This is what we're gonna be eventually painting the pattern on today. So to get started, it's so much easier if you start by drawing a straight line with your ruler for the top, and then the middle, and then the bottom. You can make this as big or as small as you want. You can make this as long as your piece of paper. Now, all of these patterns look very fancy and complicated, which they are, but when we do break them down one step at a time, it's actually really easy to do. So it looks strange in the beginning. That's fine, that's normal, just stick with it. Eventually, the more you do, like the cooler and cooler it looks. So for this double palmette pattern, we're gonna start first with this, let's just call this a kind of curlicue shape. It sort of looks like a cloud or like waves crashing in on each other. It also looks like the top of an Ionic column from ancient Greece. So we're gonna draw one of those, and we're gonna go all the way across on our middle line, repeating this shape. And I think the easiest way to connect them, if you'll notice I started this one here in this one continuous motion, but after you draw the first one, it ends up being a lot easier if you start with this kind of spiral shape, kind of growing out of this piece that we already have. See, it looks kind of like a little sprout. And then just repeating that curve like we did before. Make sure you don't have too much space in between our waves and between our sprouts, right? So we're gonna do this all the way down our line. Now the next step is to do this largest arc all the way down the line, right? So just basically like a big rainbow shape, right? And we're going all the way to the tippy top of our line here. Rainbow shape, rainbow shape. And you'll see, right, I'm leaving space in between them. They're close, but there's a little bit of a gap. You know, in these patterns, having those spaces helps make them look good. So then we're gonna do the smallest little rainbow shape down here at the bottom, all the way down the line. And you wanna make sure you leave space to do the last rainbow shape in the middle. So again, same deal. Bam, and then the last step for this top part is to do these little kind of leaf things in the middle. So the easiest way to make it look even is to just do a straight line right down the middle of all of them, and then 2 on the left, 2 on the right. They all kind of angle in, sort of like dashes on a clock. We basically got it down. So we're doing the same thing below, just upside down. So this might hurt your brain a little bit when you first start to do it, but after the first one, it gets easier and easier each one you do. So we're gonna do a similar thing to get started here, like we do when we transition from this chunk to this chunk. We're gonna grow another little spiral, right, to create like this sideways sprout, right? We created these sprouts before. Here we're doing one sideways just to kind of get ourselves going and to have this match with this. So same thing down here, right? It's like another sideways sprout, right? This one's really wide, but that's okay. So we're gonna do these all the way down. Bang, stunning. So same deal, just upside down rainbow, all the way down the line, going right down to our bottom line here. And then what's next? Little rainbow shape, upside down rainbow shape, and then our upside down medium-sized rainbow shape. Bam, bam. And then we have the little leaves in the middle. Straight one in the middle, and then you have the two on either side, all kind of pointing towards the middle. And we basically have our double palmette shape. So what we're gonna do now that we have some practice, this one's a little bit wonky, but that's okay, right? We're still learning how to do it. But now that we have some good practice, we're going to now sketch this on our pottery. Just like before, when we were learning how to draw it, the first step was to create a straight line at the top, right? And then a straight line in the middle and one at the bottom. We're gonna do the same thing on our pottery with a piece of tape to kind of get a nice straight line that goes all the way around. See if you have a line that already exists, right? That can be really helpful. I'm gonna use this lip as my top line. And then for the bottom line, I'm gonna use a line that already exists too, sort of. I'm gonna line this tape up right on the bottom. Let's kind of angle this for your viewing pleasure. And we're just gonna go all the way around. This probably just looks very awkward and not easy, but this is kind of the easiest way to get a more or less straight line that goes all the way across. And now I'm gonna do one more in the middle. This is gonna be my bottom line, this is gonna be my middle line. So I'm just gonna like use this as a guide and just trace. Okay, sweet. So we have our guides, and now we're not gonna just go straight in with the paint. We are gonna sketch this out first, all right, and then paint over it. So if you guys remember, you start with the little ionic column / cloud shape down here. Definitely use a pencil for this at home. I'm just gonna use a marker. It's just a lot easier for you guys to see. You should have drawn this with pencil, right? So after you have sketched out your design, we can then get some black paint, or really just whatever color paint that you want. Is this gonna fall down? Okay. But I'm gonna just get some black paint to keep it simple. So after you've gone over your lines with the black paint, see if you can add some strips of black, or if you want to or not. It all depends on how you filled up the space, but in looking at this, I already created these. We have this natural border here, and we created this border earlier as a guide. I kind of want to just paint it black so that we just have more contrast, and I think it'll just make the pattern itself look a lot more intense. You could fill in these extra bands with some of the patterns we learned about earlier, like that meander pattern or lotus pattern. All right, so this has been the double palmette pattern from the Etruscan black figure neck amphora in the Antiquities Collection. Hope you guys had fun trying to recreate this cool ancient pattern. Thank you for making art with the Tampa Museum of Art today. If you enjoyed today's activity, please click the thumbs up button to like our video, and don't forget to click the subscribe button so you don't miss future episodes. Plan your visit to the Tampa Museum of Art for a fun day of art by visiting our website, tampamuseum.org. We'll see you next time.